some learning or something new. Ideas are steaming, freshly brewed for you. Pull up a chair, we've saved you a view. It's grounds for growth with the one and only Brew Crew.
Better turn on my mic. We want to welcome everybody to our Grounds for Growth Summer Learning Series. Thank you so much for being here with us. I know there's a lot of places you could be on a summer Tuesday morning, so we're thankful that you chose to be here with us. I'm Kaye and also have our team member Dave Hendricks here with us. And we're excited to share with you today we're going to dig into podcasting. So engaging students from the littlest of the littles to the biggest of the bigs, engaging students with podcasting. I do have our link to this presentation in the chat. If you cannot see that, let me know. There's a lot of good stuff in this presentation that I feel like you'll probably want to come back to and keep interacting with, in the days and weeks and months and however long to come. So make sure that you have that. I've written it down, canva.link/podcasting-K12. All right, so we're just going to dive right in. Here's just kind of some of the things that I thought would be nice for us to explore together today. Just kind of looking at the benefits and possibilities that podcasting brings for learning and engagement in our classrooms. Some free and easy to use podcasting tools that are suitable for our students and teachers, and just start generating some ideas for how you could see this working for you and your role in content area as well. All right. So with that, I want to try to get a feel for where we are in our podcasting experience. So if you will, you can scan this QR code or you can open up a new tab and just go to menti.com and enter this code and cast your vote to let us know, where are you in your podcasting experience? Have you never tried it before? But hopefully you're intrigued by the idea because you're here today, right? Or maybe you've been thinking about it a lot, but you just kind of need those ideas to get started using this with your students. Or maybe you have experimented with podcasting before and you're just looking for some new ideas. Or, I felt it was important to just include an option. It's summer. Maybe you haven't finished your first cup of coffee yet. It's summer, and that's okay too. Give us an idea of where you are, and that will kind of guide some of our discussions as we move forward. All right, so it looks like that we've got a lot of folks who have not started podcasting yet, but are looking for some good ideas or inspiration. And then those who have started experimenting, we'd love for you to be sharing some of your ideas with us along the way. I definitely am a novice. I do not sit here as a podcasting expert by any means. So I'm hoping to learn with you today as well. All right. So we are going to move forward. It looks like that most of our folks here today are just getting started with podcasting, and I love that. I think that you will find a lot of good things here that you can use with confidence moving forward, with students. So I have a couple of podcasts here that I'm going to share with you. These are student focused podcasts. Well, students did the creating here. And we're not going to listen to these full episodes. And I really am banking on the hope that my sound cooperates with me. But as you listen to the excerpts that I share with you, I want you to just think about, what is standing out to you when you hear these excerpts from these podcasts, and think about the skills that students had to use to create these. So we're going to start with All Seasons, All Stories. This episode was called Grandma Judy. You know it's going to be good if there's a grandma. All right, so here we go. And if when I start this, if you cannot hear, please somebody turn on a mic and tell me because I won't know. Let's see if it's gonna cooperate with me. There we go.
Hey, everybody, come along with us. Look in the presidents. Come to the
I'm gonna go fast forward a little bit.
First episode of season 2, and we're so happy you're here. I'll let the students take it from here.
Hi, I'm Johnny. I'm 4. I'm Morgan. I'm 3. Hi, I'm Arjun, and I am 4. Hi, I'm Sienna. And I don't know how old am I. Hi, I am Round, and I am 5. I'm Owen. I'm 4 years old. I'm Elrond, and I'm 5 years old. I'm Claire, and I'm 5 years old.
I'm gonna fast forward just a little bit.
And I'm 46 years old.
My name is Julie. I'm 38 years old. And today we have with us
Judy, Grandma Judy.
How old are you,
And
Judy?
I am 85 years old.
85.
Have you ever went to school?
I sure did. I went to grade school, I went to high school, and I went also to college. So I was in school for a long time.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause Grandma Judy there, but it's LinkedIn because it's a good one. You might want to follow back up with that one in a minute. Okay, and now I'm just gonna play for you the beginning of this podcast. It was completely student generated, unveiling the untold hidden events in history.
Events in History by Ria Swaru. Have you ever heard of the Claudette Colvin bus boycott or the Radium Girls? Chances are most people haven't. These crucial pieces of history have been tucked away in the shadows, not just in classrooms, but across the globe, including right here in the United States. I'm Ria Swarup, and today we've peeled back the curtain to reveal the hidden history lessons your teachers never taught you. Imagine it's March 2nd, 1955, a typical school day in Montgomery, Alabama.
Okay, so like I said, I'm just playing a very, very brief intro or to let you get a sense for what these podcast episodes were like. So I want you to share. You can either put it in your ideas in the chat, or I'd love for you to turn on your microphone too, if you'd like. What stands out to you about either one or both of these podcasts, or what are some of the skills that you recognize students had to employ here? Yeah, so Karen says some script writing skills, how to write those good intros with a hook. Yes, and if you work with students at all with writing, you know that hook and how to get their audience's attention is something that is a big deal, and some students struggle with. So the second one, the hook to engage the audience, and then that music to add to that atmosphere. There's a lot of critical thinking that went into students, like, taking that from concept to, bringing it to fruition for sure. Yes, that was one, Cheyenne, that I was really hoping would hit home. Podcasting can be used for any age, even when you don't know how old you are. Isn't it funny? I feel like, that's perfect. Life is full circle. Like, she didn't know how old she was, and I'm at that point where I have to do the mental math sometimes to figure out how old I am too. So yes, even for the littles. I mean, did you notice the interviewing skills and the collaboration that went into that? Those are, are a couple of things that I hope are really standing out to you. And please continue to share your ideas. Podcasting really does give us the opportunity to stretch students in a lot of different ways. And if you're wondering, because it wasn't that long ago that I did not know this, that when we talk about what a podcast is, that prefix pod, it stands for something personal on demand. And if you look at those two words, those are ones that really stand out to us as educators because, personal and personalizing learning for students, making it something that they can connect to on a personal level. And then the on demand piece adds another level of accessibility. So when students can continue to interact with content and ideas repeatedly if they need to, or, whether it's at home or different locations, that adds another layer to the learning power for podcasts as well. So, just an audio based platform, though we do know that there are a lot of podcasts that bring in the video element too, but not necessary. So, audio based platforms that allow us to just share ideas, stories, anything with a wider audience. And so it's important to note here too when you start thinking about podcasting, like in terms of how might I use this or work with students on this, it could be episodic where, it's an ongoing thing, right? So maybe you start a class podcast that goes throughout the semester or the school year, where students continue to contribute episodes to something bigger. Or it can be more standalone content. So like a one and done, like this was my one time situation to share my ideas or my learning or content on this topic. And I heard a mic. Did somebody use the podcasting give students voice? Yes, most definitely. That voice piece is a big part of this, and I put it here too. So that's one of the things that's really important for our students. Does somebody want to add to that or share anything about that, Cheyenne or anyone else? So, a lot of times when we are racing to get through a curriculum or things like that, it can be easy to lose those opportunities for students to, hear their voice or see their voice in their learning. And recognizing that podcasting can be another way to um, both teach content and to assess students' mastery of it and giving them that voice. That's a really powerful thing. And it just increases student engagement, right? If I say, all right, guys, we're going to learn about this and then you're going to write an essay versus, okay, we're going to learn about this and then you're going to create a podcast. Which one do you think that the students are more likely to get on board with? Right? They're probably gonna be like, "Oh, not another essay." But as we were just talking about in the comments, the scripting, the writing is still there, right? They're still having that opportunity to practice those really important writing skills and think about all the things that go into good writing. Um, but it doesn't feel like writing an essay because now it's uh, something different, something that is more relevant to them and their experience. And it just makes that learning more accessible, especially some of the tools I'm going to show you today. You'll see how easy it is to create podcasts in multiple languages so that you can reach students, that English may not be their first language. So a lot of different features of podcasting helps give students both that voice, but another avenue to express themselves in a way that is easier for them. This article here is one that I included. That's one of the things I thought you would enjoy as a follow up. What podcast did for student engagement in these schools? It gave some really interesting examples. So if you're looking for more inspiration, then that is definitely a article worth reading. But again, just recognizing all of the different skills that students are using when they engage in podcasting. But also just recognizing how popular podcasting has become for the students that we teach. And this is research from 2024. And I will tell you that a recent report that I saw from early 2026 shows that these numbers are increasing and projected to continue to increase. So more people than ever are listening to podcasts, and it's kids ages 12 and up that we see that listenership really increasing. So 47% of people 12 and up are monthly podcast listeners and 34% weekly. So they're already engaging in podcast content. They reach all generations, kids age 6 to 12, 29% of listenership. And listeners are spending more time than ever with podcasts. So we see those numbers continue to move up. So a student's willingness, like we see, that they're willing to engage in listening for those longer periods of time. If it's a format or a medium that will capture their attention and hold their focus, then it's definitely something that's worth taking advantage of, right? And it's just, if students get into this and really grow their podcasting skills, it's a $1 billion industry. Students can literally make money. This could be a career, right? For them. We see that that is the case for a lot of people. Yes. And Amber mentions that, that not having to appear on camera is a good thing for a lot of students. They might be shy for their image to be captured, but being able to, let their voice be heard in that lower stakes environment that podcast gives them is a good thing. Okay, so also just thinking about, standards. Podcasting really can connect to all of our standards in some way. It's definitely hitting all of our ISTE standards, which are North Carolina's digital learning standards, through, empowered learner, creative communicator, global collaborator. If we look at the characteristics in the North Carolina portrait of a graduate, all of these things are things that, enduring skills that students can grow through podcasting. But I also want you, as we move forward, to be thinking about this question, because we'll ask you to share some of your ideas at the end. So just kind of maybe have some paper or something nearby. You just the ideas come, you just hold on to them. You don't want to lose them. How can you see podcasting supporting your standards or your role, or your students, whoever it is that you work with? Okay, so what to focus on, we're going to start digging into the good stuff. I want us to think about students as both the audience for podcasts and also students as creators. Okay, so I have included here several different resources that you can explore to help you connect with podcasts that are, you could use for students as the audience. Here are several different curated lists from Common Sense that outline different podcasts for different age groups. And really, no matter what you teach, there is a podcast that relates to your content area. Guaranteed. It doesn't matter. There's a podcast for everything. So if you take a look at some of these lists, I'm not going to open all of these, but here are 3 curated lists from Common Sense. A lot of really great options on there, very popular podcasts. But also, especially if you're here in Johnston County, Discovery Ed, been around here in Johnston County forever and a day, but they have great podcast content as well. So here's a fun one, Stuff You Should Know. It's just a fun podcast, probably appropriate for upper elementary, right on up to high school, honestly. The topics are so varied. That one is worth any content area looking at because you might find an episode that, could pique students' interest or be a great, lead in to one of your own units. So I would check that one out. And then also Eric Kurtz, his blog Control Alt Achieve. I always feel like I'm going to get those words wrong. He puts out some amazing content. He's created a ton of gems, his edu gems, and he's created one that's a podcast matchmaker gem. So this is good for you personally if you're looking for to find a podcast you could enjoy, this summer. This is a fun one to use, but you can also use this to help you find one that connects to your content area as well. So when you click on this, if you choose to explore his podcast Matchmaker, it's gonna, when you start the gem, you have to put something in the box, even if it's just to say hi or press enter or whatever to get it started. And it'll give you a list of 7 things to respond to. So just put 1 and your answer. 1-word answers are completely fine. And if you don't have an answer for that one, just put 1 NA or don't know or whatever, not applicable. So I'm going to give you just about 2 minutes to look through some of these lists. And I'd love for you to share what you walk away with. Like, did you find something that you really loved or you could see yourself using? So I'm going to give us about 2 minutes to explore these before we report out what we got. Give us some music here. All right. So I'd love for somebody to share either, again, you can turn on your mic or share in the chat. What did you find? Something that you found on one of these lists or in the podcast matchmaker that you really liked?
Good morning, everyone.
Hi. What'd you
So
find?
I found, I'm a fifth grade math teacher, so I was looking in EduGems and I realized that it can be used to help with math spiral reviews and stuff. So what you basically do is that it helps you to create plans. Once you state the problem, then it will be able to help students to retain their skills and their knowledge over time. Because, it's a podcast, so it will be able to be there for, a long term. So it will be able to help the students to better master their content and stuff like that, because it will be something, sorry, that they'll be able to revert to each time.
Yes, yes. Thank you for sharing.
It has a
And
lot of math talk activities too, not only for math, but I specifically look for math because that's what I teach. It also has literacy stuff, assessment stuff, science materials in case we want to help our students with science materials and stuff, science
Mhm.
lab experiments. So it has a plethora of stuff there that we can use. It can help us to increase the rigor for our students. So it's not just basic stuff there. It's there for different DOK levels as well, that we can be able to help all students, the subgroup all.
And I love that you mentioned that going beyond too, because, podcasting, like you mentioned, it can be used to reinforce content for
Mhm.
students who need that, but it's also a perfect enriching opportunity for students to, have that ability to continue to explore a topic in a new way, or,
Mhm.
get, different background, or kind
Mhm.
of go down a rabbit hole. I love that. And Amber said, best PC for kids focus on sparking conversations and have different subjects to accomplish this. Yes, I love that. So I hope that as you continue to explore these and other options, one of my personal favorites, I always recommend to everybody that I do believe, is appropriate for use with students, especially secondary students, This American Life. It's an NPR podcast. It's been out for years. Um, just so interesting. And I love that, just kind of human perspective that they take on so many different things. Um, Haley never heard of Discovery Education, but looking through that, and they have so much stuff. Yes, we were just talking about Discovery Ed yesterday, and what you know especially if you have been around for a long time and you heard about Discovery Ed, it was emphasized so much previously in past years in our district, and then you just kind of forget about those those treasure troves as you move forward. So yes, Haley, definitely keep experimenting and exploring Discovery Ed, because there's a lot of great content there. All right, so we're going to move forward. This just kind of gives you an overview. And again, this is by no means an end all be all list, but just to kind of spark some ideas to help you see that a podcast really can be anything. So it can take on that more interview feel, like our young kids did that were interviewing Grandma Judy. Um, and to be able to share some of those personal experiences and stories. It can be solo, or it can be, kind of a co-host. So it invites collaboration as well. There can be that storytelling element. So whether it be fiction or nonfiction. So I feel like the hidden history one was still had that really nice storytelling element, but focusing on a nonfiction topic. That the student had been researching. So it brought in those researching skills as well. Those repurpose or recaps to summarize or show, here's what I've learned. It could be a hybrid. It could be a little bit of everything. Really, the sky is the limit when it comes to podcasting. Here, I have included several different links that you can refer to. One is just a very basic podcast planning sheet. We talked about the writing element that goes into planning for a podcast. That planning is super important. I definitely, don't suggest, we just let students kind of wing it or freestyle. you never know what you might get. I would never try to just like wing it in a podcast either. So that's just a very basic planning sheet. You could tailor that to fit your needs, whatever level you are working at. This is a really nice 8-step cheat sheet for teaching podcasting in the classroom. So if it's something that you want to do and you're trying to envision like what would this look like from beginning to end, this is a nice guide created by a teacher who has successfully podcasted in the classroom for many projects. It was a really helpful guide that I thought was nice. And NPR, because they do have a podcast challenge, which we'll take a look at in a few minutes, they have a whole podcasting curriculum guide that teachers can use with their students. And that podcasting challenge, it is from elementary right on up to high school and beyond. They have different levels that students can submit their work. So that's a nice curriculum guide that walks you through step by step. First, maybe we start by just letting students hear some podcasts to get an idea of this is what this is like if this is new to you. And one of the things that I like that it emphasizes is giving students low stakes opportunities to learn how to podcast and get comfortable with it, right? So, their first interaction with podcasting, we would not say, okay, this is a project grade, because, that's not really fair. They're just learning, right? So just kind of building in opportunities for students to grow those skills as they go along. And that's what adds to the engagement piece as well for them, knowing that they can dive in and experiment without the pressure of the grade always. Okay, so students as creators or you as a creator, how are we going to get started? Some people think, I have to have a lot of different equipment for this. And the truth is you already have everything that you need. If you have your computer or your students have a Chromebook or a computer, that's really all that you need to get started with podcasting. But if you are feeling a little extra, here are a couple of things, starting with like just very small. One thing that is nice is just a good microphone. I really love the Blue Yeti USB mic. It's that multi-pattern mic. So you could just kind of sit that in the middle of a group of students and you could change the pattern so that it would capture sound from all around, or like just one-on-one or two people talking from the sides. It's a nice investment if podcasting is something that you try and you really like and you want to continue to go with, but not investing like thousands of dollars. So this link will take you to the Blue Yeti mic on Amazon. And then I have seen one of our libraries in Johnston County used a grant to get this isolation booth that they set up in the kind of one of the corners of their libraries. And so that kind of helped with the soundproofing. So you see, it comes just like these little walls, and then the pieces that you put on top. That one is a little more expensive, obviously, but like I said, they used a grant. It might have been a Bright Ideas grant or something like that they used to purchase that. And then they just set up some chairs and a little table inside to give it that more, special feel, like we're doing this. And that added a nice element for the students too, that increase that engagement as well. Let's see here. But everything I'm going to show you today does not use either of these things. It just uses some other free tools. So I'm going to share with you first, if you have attended a podcasting session before, I wanted to add some new features for you. And one thing I want to share with you as a teacher that wants to use podcasting to engage students or give students, that ability to interact with content. There are a couple of AI tools that you have that can help you generate podcasts very quickly, like little to no effort. One is Brisk Teaching. So if you have not downloaded the Brisk extension, it's a Google Chrome extension that you can get. The you have the presentation open, the link here should take you to the Brisk extension in the Google Chrome store. So you can easily download that to your Google extensions. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a minute. So once you get that downloaded, if you want to go ahead and do that real quick, then you'll be able to experiment. What this will allow you to do is, let's say there's a website that you're using, or maybe you have a Google Doc of notes, whatever it is you're working from, you can use the Brisk extension to generate a podcast based off of the content in that document. And it will also allow you to change the language. So again, that's something that you could easily do to meet various students' needs that you might have in your classrooms. So that's one option. And then also Notebook LM will help you generate a podcast very quickly. And this is a Google tool. So you have this in your Google apps, your suite of Google apps, Google for Education apps. Here's what the logo looks like. So if you go to your Google Waffle menu and you scroll down far enough, you will see Notebook LM. You can also get there by going to notebooklm.google.com. And this is functioning in a similar way. You bring in the documents or sources that you are using for your unit, whether it be websites or your own docs, unit guides, whatever you have. And then Notebook LM can generate the podcast based off of those things that you bring. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to show you the Brisk teaching, an example with this first. So I'm going to come here. It's World Cup season, y'all. We're watching the World Cup in our house. So I'm going to use the World Cup for our examples today. So one thing I love about the World Cup is just the history, that we can learn and get a glimpse of from that. So here is a page from the History Channel's website, just a history of the World Cup. You see down here in the bottom right of my screen, I have this little icon. This is the Brisk Teaching icon, extension, whatever. So once you download that extension, it will show up on your pages. So I'm going to click here, and if it doesn't show up, you can come up here to your little puzzle piece that you have near the search bar in the top of your screen. Your extensions icon, and click on that to access the extension from there once you have it downloaded. Okay, so I'm going to open this up, and here is asking, and this is in their free plan, mind you, I'm all about the free. What do we want to do? We want to create, and what do I want to create? Look, there's a podcast option, so I'm going to click on podcast, and I'm going to click next. And then here is where I could change my language output to, whatever I wanted it to be. I'm going to keep it with English. I could, include any details that I want them to know about. What do I want this podcast to focus on? I can tailor the length of it. So, if I'm just trying to get students excited about the unit that we're getting ready to teach, I might go with 1 to 2 minutes. If I want to offer something a little more in depth, I might increase that time. I also want to take into consideration the attention span for the students and what's developmentally appropriate for them. So I can up that as well. I can change my grade level so that it will tailor it to that age group. And I'm just going to stick with the standard AI. There's a turbo AI feature there. I'm going to stick with the standard. Okay, so I'm going to say a 1 to 2 minute podcast for 11th grade high school students. And I'm just going to say, focus this podcast on a brief overview of World Cup history. So it's using the contents of what's on this website, right? So I know it's contained to what I am looking at. It's not going all over the place to do this. And now I've typed that, I can brisk it and it will generate pretty quickly. If I ask it to create, a longer one, it might take a couple of minutes. So you can see here, and it's also automatically given me my transcript for the podcast. Here is the history of the World Cup.
Welcome to our podcast. Today, we're diving into the fascinating history of the World Cup, one of the biggest sporting events in the world.
That's right, Aisha. The World Cup is an international soccer tournament held every 4 years, organized by FIFA, which is the sport.
Okay, and I can also tell it to hide the transcript if I want, and it's given me a shareable link that I can now easily share with my students. I could, put that link in my LMS and Google Classroom or whatever I'm using. I have a lot of different options for how I get that out there. I did not have to talk and produce this. This tool did it for me based off of a resource that I knew that, I was using in my unit or that was applicable to my curriculum. So that is Brisk. Now I'm going to share with you real quick what that I did for Notebook LM. So Brisk, you just download the extension, and then whatever document or website you are working from, you can create that podcast. This is Notebook LM. So I created a new notebook. This is my World Cup history notebook, and I included sources. So some of these sources, there's my World Cup history one that we were just looking at. I brought that source into my notebook, but I also searched the web here using their research tools to select a few additional ones that offered other perspectives. So now I'm going to come over here on the right side, the studio panel in Notebook LM, and you see you have the audio overview option. Now they have added so much more flexibility and options with the studio tools, especially the audio overview. When I click this arrow here, now I can customize this podcast to do a lot of different things. I can tell it, do I want this to be a deep dive where we're really getting into the weeds of it? Do I want to keep it more brief? Is it going to take on more of a critique feel or a debate where we're kind of going back and forth? Obviously, depending on the topic or what you're covering, that would, impact this a lot. I'm going to stick with the deep dive. Again, I can choose the language. I will tell you that I have heard from native speakers of other languages that say that the translation is very accurate in this model. I can again choose the length. Just for time purposes, I'm going to choose short. What should the AI host focus on in this episode? And it gives me some options here. So I could, say I want to focus this on people that don't know anything about soccer or football. Evolution timeline. So let's go with that. Walk through the tournament's history by tracking format changes across key areas. Sounds good to me. So I'm going to generate that. And you'll see over here in my studio panel, it is generating. It says come back in a few minutes. So we'll give it a minute. There's also a really cool, another cool feature for this. Now, one thing that I will tell you about Notebook LM, we have not opened this up for students yet, right, Dave? Is that correct? Is it open for students yet?
For high school students, if they go directly to the notebook.google.com, they can get there, but it's not a direct link. So teacher kind of
Right. So it's not showing up in their waffle menu. Right. Okay. But the good thing about this is that you as the teacher, you can either invite students to give you links that you put into a notebook for them, or you can do this in whatever it creates. Like when it creates this audio overview, you'll be able to download it and then share it with students in other ways. So if you download the audio file and upload it into your Google Drive, well, then you automatically have a shareable link that you would be able to easily distribute to students as well for them to listen to. We're going to move forward. I'll come back to this in a minute. I don't want us to lose any time while we wait for that to generate. So it will take a minute or two, but when it is ready, you'll be really excited to see what it sounds like. Does anybody have any questions about either of these tools? I wanted to show you two that are super easy to use that you could get started with. And thanks to Dave also for sharing that free month of the premium version of Brisk. Anybody else? Anybody have any questions about either of these tools? Okay, I'm going to move forward. Just check my, okay, yeah. Okay, so here are just 3 examples that I wanted to share with you. These 3 students do have access to and could easily use, but I don't want you to feel like we're limiting this in any way. Basically, anything that we have that has a recording feature or that ability to capture audio or even to upload it, we can use for podcasting, right? Book Creator is a tool that I love, and it has a really robust free plan too that you can maximize for podcasting. It allows students to very easily record. I could easily use that for podcasting, and their templates would give you a nice planning tool as well. Google Slides, now you can record on top of a slide, so students could create their slide to look like the podcast cover, that visual element that you see when you are listening to a podcast, and then record on top of that. And the thing that I love about that, which I did create a video tutorial that you could use, the thing I love about that is that you could continue to add different recordings to that same slide, so their podcast cover, and they can continue to add episodes with new recordings to that. So I'll open that up real quick and just give you a look there. Since this is something, Google Slides, most of our students are familiar. We're familiar as well. Let's create a blank, start with a blank presentation. Okay, I'll come here. All right, I am going to actually go for a template. I'm going to try this one. And I'm just going to use this first title page. I'm going to, and again, our students could tailor this. This is my podcast title. Maybe this is going to be some kind of fun tagline. Oops, not a link, a line. I'll include the date. Maybe I would include the creator name and summary. If it's a standalone episode, maybe I'm going to do that. So really, this is all I need. So this is my podcast cover. And now I am going to, give me 1 second. Where's my, oh, where did my record button go? Hey, where did my record button go? It was right over there. Ah! I want to come back to this, y'all. I'm not going to waste time. My record button was right over there. I don't know what happened to my record button. I'll figure it out and I'll let you know. Okay. I'm going to show you one other thing real quick, though. That's super frustrating. If you watch the tutorial, you'll see that my record button was there. And you will hopefully see it on your screen. Who knows what happens with all this? Okay, and then I'm just going to share with you real quick what Google Vids looks like. I'm not going to go into this a whole lot, but basically this is a tool that you can create a video. So But, again, don't think that the video has to include your image. Since we mentioned earlier, some students might not feel comfortable having their face captured or being in the video. You could turn the camera off. So you can start with that blank video. You can, again, design this to look like your podcast cover, and then start recording here. So I'm not going to spend time designing, but you also have the image generating tools, so students could generate an image to put here, or they could design it themselves. But there is the record feature, so they can have the camera on, camera and screen, or just their screen, and then they can start recording themselves right in here. The nice thing about Google Vids that is harder to do, or you can't really do in Google Slides, is it adds this option to add those layering effects. So like the music, you could bring in music over here. They have built-in music that you can add. You can describe your song, whatever vibe you want to have. You can upload your own music if you want to. You can bring in those. So it gives you a lot of flexibility to add in some of those sound effects and things like that. As students are just getting started, maybe they just want to focus on their voice. And then as they progress in their skills, maybe they do want to start to add in some of those sound elements. If it seems tricky to you, don't discount the ability for your students to do it, because they pick up on these things super quick. Okay, so those are Google Slides and Vids. Basically, we are either recording on the Google Slide. It is possible. I don't know what happened to my record button, but I'll find it. And Google Vids. So those are two good options there. Yes, thank you for sharing that. Definitely, Amber. And then also, we have Canva as a great option. So Canva, they have the pretty podcast covers right there in their design studio. So students could choose a podcast cover, easily customize it, and then they are just clicking on the upload button in the left toolbar and clicking record yourself. Just like in Google Vids, Canva has built-in music. It has those layering, that ability to layer in the music or sound effects. Here, I've got a tutorial that you can watch where I walk you through step-by-step how to do that. But Canva also provides some really great resources as well. They have their Design School podcast guide, which is a step-by-step guide to show you exactly what to do to start podcasting. And they have a Canva podcast work kit, also really awesome to use to give you confidence in helping your students get started with podcasting too. So Canva, again, a really great free option. One of my personal favorites, Adobe Podcast, also a free option. They have built-in sound, and it's already generated with podcasting in mind, right? So it's already edited it out to give you, this is an intro, 12-second intro clip that you could just drop in there. This is a transition clip. This is an outro clip. So they've already edited their music for you. The downside is that they don't have as many options, but you can upload a sound file yourself. And it will give you the ability to split it, so you could do some of that editing with those audio clips yourself to get exactly what you want from a clip that you might bring in from somewhere else. It makes it super easy to collaborate, and we're going to take a look at that together in just a second. It also includes placeholders, so it kind of has a planning piece embedded, so you could put a placeholder and say, here I'm going to talk about this, and here I'm going to talk about this. I've included a tutorial video that you can come back to for reference later. I will tell you, this tutorial video I created before some of their recent feature updates that we're going to take a look at, that you'll see here in a second. So let's experiment. This is just, again, have fun with your students. Like, you guys can work on this and do this together in class. If open up Adobe Podcast. It will give you a share link that you can share with your students. So, they could tune right into that podcast session, from their desk using their Chromebook, or, you could send one group to the library to help kind of cut down on noise in the classroom, or to another room in the school, or to the hallway. And they would still be able to tune in and still see that. So if you will we're going to click where it says, let's record together in Adobe Podcast. Click on this link. This will take you to a project that I set up. Now, I will tell you, if you are not muted, you do want to mute yourself. Because if you don't mute yourself in our Google Meet, then we will get bad feedback in here. So I'm going to mute myself on Google Meet, but you will still be able to hear me. So if you want, just click on the link. You can turn your camera off in this too. Okay, so I will tell you, when I came in, I clicked on record at the top to move out of edit mode into record mode. So I'm here, and if you click that link, then you should show up here with me as well. But again, you can turn your camera off if you want.
Yes, um, I'll be in the third grade, and I'm thinking that it would be an easy way for students to express their understanding of the topics that they've learned. I'll be doing math, so there are certain topics that will be taught that I think students can actually explain themselves after the topic has been taught and how it is important in everyday world.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So now I'm going to come back to edit, and it's processing. So it will take a minute. While it's processing, you will see in a minute the full transcript of what we just said came up. And I can, while she's doing that, I'm going to show you some of these features here. You say, it's happening, it's happening. Here is the music. So you could upload your own music. We could go with Megawatt. Here's what I was sharing with you. It makes it really easy. So I could just add this in, put it at the beginning. I could add throughout. And here are the placeholders I was telling you about. So if I click add a placeholder, it will put in what I want to share. And then enhance is a really nice feature. So if you're thinking, well, in my classroom it's so loud, I'd never be able to podcast and get a good sound. First, in a classroom setting, I feel like a little bit of background noise is okay. It makes it clear that students are engaging in learning in their classroom environment. If I go to enhance though, and I turn on enhance, it's amazing how much of the background noise this tool will block out. So I can say, how much background noise am I willing to take here? And I can take it down a little bit. How much of the speech do I want to focus in on? So I can adjust these, and it's amazing how much it will make you sound like you are sitting right in the middle of a podcasting a sound booth, like a soundproof booth. I'm going to turn it off for right now, though, just so maybe it will help speed this along a little bit. So that is transcribing. I'm going to come back to this in just a second. while that's doing that, I'm going to hop back over to my Notebook LM. My podcast has finished generating over here. So here it is, how the World Cup format changed. Here, you notice that there is a little hand. That's interactive mode. This is super fun. If you, put this up on your panel or smartboard in your classroom, this will allow you or your students to actually pause the podcast, ask a question, and the host of the podcast will respond. So it's literally like they are interacting with their sources or the content in a special way. So I'm going to show you, and if you don't want to do that, you can just press play and you'll hear the thing. I'm going to do the interactive mode so you can get an idea of what that sounds like, because it's just super cool. And your students will be like, whoa, is there a wizard in here? Here we go.
Welcome to the deep dive. We've got a really interesting stack of sources today. We're looking at FIFA archives, Wikipedia, and some incredibly detailed historical breakdowns.
Yeah, it's a lot of data to sift through.
Right. But our mission today isn't just to recite a list of World Cup winners for you. We are tracking how the actual format of the tournament evolved over time.
From that quirky little 13-team experiment.
Okay, so I'm going to click join and ask a question so you can see what that sounds like.
Into this mass.
Oh, hey, I think our listeners got something to say.
Has the United States ever won the World Cup before? Oh. Has the United States ever won the World Cup before?
That is a fantastic question, and it really depends on which team you're looking at.
It's a bit of a tale of two different worlds for American soccer, actually.
So for the men's national team, the short answer is no, they haven't won it yet.
But what's fascinating is that...
So that just gives you an idea of the possibilities in Notebook LM and what that sounds like and how you could use it still as like a way to interact. The transcript is still processing in Adobe Podcast, and I know that we are running out of time. We have run out of time, but I'm not going to wait. But you will see that the transcript would come up. And the nice thing about this is if you see misspellings or things in the transcript, you can correct it right here in what it gives you. And then when you're ready to export, you can go to export and download a video if you wanted to be able to see the people's faces in the call, or just the audio, just the transcript and an audiogram. Really fun thing. That's another day. We'll save that one for another day. But again, this is a tool that I have personally loved and have used a lot for podcasting that I think you would really like too. So the last couple of things that I wanted to share, obviously, how would you get your podcast out there and share it? I've included here a few ideas. It depends on, how official you want to be. Sharing through Spotify is super easy. Setting up the YouTube channel, still very doable as well. Not my preferred method. Or you can keep it basic. Put it in a Google Drive and it immediately has that easy shareable link that you can put out there, and also restrict the privacy settings to, kind of have control over who can see it. So here is the link to the NPR Student Podcast Challenge. They do this every year for elementary right up to college age students. Here is a link to a cool article. Some years they give a theme or a topic for students to focus on as an added bonus. But for this challenge, students can submit a podcast for anything. And if you click on this link here and explore some of the past winners, I think you'll be really impressed and inspired by what students can do with podcasting. Okay, so you can either share it in our Menti or you can share it in our chat. What are some of your ideas that you have been generating? Some have shared about, students explaining and sharing what they've learned, in a unit. What are any other ideas that you are seeing for podcasting? And I'm going to move forward here too so you can see. Again, you can use the chat or you can use our Menti. You should be able to drop those ideas in there. And here is the QR code if you needed that again. What are you feeling excited about, or what are your ideas for this? And again, if you have done some podcasting with students before, we'd love to hear your ideas. And whatever ideas are shared at our Menti, I can capture that and I'll drop that image right into our presentation so you'll be able to continue to refer back to it. Yes, that math in everyday life, that's an idea that I've seen a lot in from math teachers. So like everyday math, because students are always like, when am I going to use this in life? So there are podcasts where they find, math in real life. Love that idea. Any other things or ideas? Yes, make that thinking visible. Dave mentioned is super important. Super important. Collaborative student projects to demonstrate learning 100%. Review those concepts. I've seen have a discussion about different ways or strategies they've learned to solve their math problems. Who is easier or more challenging? Their likes or dislikes? Yes, I love that. I've seen, in the library, I work largely with librarians. I have seen librarians use a podcast to, kind of build school community. So they use their media assistants, their library assistants, and they, interview students from throughout the school, but they also share book reviews and what's new in the library. So there's so many different things. And we've got the idea here from a media coordinator, instructional technology facilitator, review books. Yes, from the virtual library. I love that idea. And those weekly school updates for sure. Interviewing classmates, but also too, this would be a great opportunity for students to bring them their identities, their cultures, their backgrounds, and share that, making those connections too. So many different cool things we could do with interviews. You can continue to share your ideas. I know that we are out of time. I'm happy to stick around and continue to brainstorm with you. I'd love to collaborate with you on a project that you might have. If you want to try something with your students, I can see podcasting be an awesome way for a beginning of the year activity to help build that classroom community and let it be an ongoing thing, that they could share easily with their parents. Oh man, so many different things. I always get excited thinking about new ideas. So if you want to collaborate or just have someone there to bounce ideas off as you try to implement some of these things, I'm happy to do that with you. And anybody else here on our team would love to collaborate with you too. Dave is here, and our executive director, Michelle McNeil, she has a passion for collaboration too. And finally, make sure that you get what you need. So you can scan this QR code. I'm also going to put the document that it takes you to in the chat. If you are a JCPS person, you can find the QR code for attendance here. And if you are joining us from outside of Johnston County, you can find details on this document as well for how you can get some a certificate, so you get credit for spending a summer morning with us here too. And that is it. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you have enjoyed this. I hope you found at least one thing that you could use to start podcasting with your students. And again, if you'd like to stick around, I am here to answer questions or brainstorm with you or whatever you want to do. Happy summer. Finish that coffee before it gets cold. I don't think anything gets cold on these hot days, though. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elma. All right. Did anybody have any questions? All right. Well, thank you again for being here, and reach out by email or phone if you want to follow up. And yay, I'm going to end our call now. Thank you again.